Have you ever felt that the market is way too expensive? Or fantasized about making your own custom trade values? Or ever wondered how fast Steamroller could really beat Border of Life should pigs trade for iron armor 1-to-1? Or basically bursted into tears when you saw this article written by Crom saying that the market values are perfect and the default cam economy is the way to go. But if you are a scripter and you happen to know this in the documentation, maybe you will wipe a tear, because maybe the values will change in the future after all, and you were hoping someone would come along and write a script that will enable you to have custom market prices, preferably cheaper. Then you have come to the right place. Sit back and enjoy, and be ready to customize your market for the very first time in history for any remake version R6720+. For those who don't know about the market, there's a chart like this circulating around that will tell you what prices will exchange for what. So if you ever run low on stone and you can't build anymore, or you run out of gold and you can't train anymore, you can use the market to kind of get you out of a hole that you normally lose the game for. But for those who actually have seen this chart before and are using it, it has at least two errors. One of them is horses to stone. This chart says it's 0.17, but in a market trade chart I made recently, you can see that it's 1 divided by 7, which is 0.14. And there's one other mistake in here, and that's for the iron armor to fish. It says it's 1-to-1, but in my chart you can see that it's 1-to-2. So I'm going to provide a link to this in the video description, not just because all the values are right, but because like with this one, when you zoom in, it becomes blurry. It's not very good quality, and you see decimals instead of numbers, and some people are seeing a comma and they're like, a comma? Well, if you're from America, that's confusing for us because we use a decimal, we use a period and not a comma for decimals. But the point is, this is also abridged, so it's smaller. You can find things easier because all of the wood type resources are grouped together, then all corn, then all gold, then all iron, and then 2 raw materials, and then finally the remaining food items. And then down here I say that the wooden weapons are all equal to each other as far as trading for everything else is concerned, and they trade for each other 2-to-1. And the same thing with the iron weapons. So whenever you see a sword in here and you don't see a crossbow or a pike, whatever values you see here will be the same for the crossbow and the pike. And also the iron shield and the iron armor, the iron shield's not in here, but it's the same type of thing. They trade for each other 2-to-1, and regarding other resources, they trade all the same for them. And when you zoom in with this chart, it's high resolution, as high as it can be. So I'll have a link to this in the video description for you to download, and you can keep a chart like this as a souvenir. Alright, so now what this video is about. Alright, so I'm going to show you the script. There's actually 2 different variations of it for R6720, and also 2 variations of it for the beta versions that are more recent than R6720. So I'll start with, and you can see in the top here it says option 1, and then this is from the R6720 folder. Just like how you have a table here, this script is, if you look at the bottom left, it's a little over 400 lines. But then I have another option here that it's almost 1900 lines, and it's not like it's any more work for you. This one might be actually less work for you, so I'm going to go through them both. So I'll start with the shorter one. When you open it, you're going to see a whole bunch of text. This is not code, it's just comments and instructions, and I'll go through that with you soon, but you can just quickly scroll all the way to the end and then go up just a little bit. I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. This is an additional option you have, and I'll explain what it means in a minute. But if you just scroll up a little bit more, you're going to see 2 tables, and they're actually just representing this table here pretty much, except for I include all 3 wooden weapons as well as all 3 iron weapons, because this is just a default that all of the weapons are equal regarding trading with other resources, as I've said already, and that they trade for each other 2-to-1, as I said already. But since this is custom values, we might want to make crossbows more valuable than swords for some resource. I don't know why, but my goal was to make it so that I give you ultimate freedom to do whatever you want. The table reads exactly how you think it is if you just compare it with this. The left resource is the resource that you trade. The right resource is the resource that you obtain from the trade. So for here, don't waste your time to put some here where trunk trades with trunk, because you will not be able to trade with the market anyway. When you enter numbers in here, you have to enter them on these lines. And when you do that, like if I type in, let me go to wine and horses. If I want to trade just 3 wine barrels to get 1 horse, all of a sudden this line gets messed up and I have to put some extra spaces in here to line it up again. So that's the headache of this one. But if you like compactness in that you like to work with a 400 line script instead of a 1900 line script, then by all means use this one. And it's more of a tabular format than the other one, but the other one is a table format in its own right. It's just all one column all the way down the whole sheet. Alright, so let me test this out. I have to save it. So you seen it up there, it jumped when I saved it. And this is R6720 option 1. So I have a map in here that's just for me for this demonstration. I'm going to just simply block the storehouse, and I'm going to come here and trade wine barrels for horses. So I'm just going to do one trade. When the trade is done, we have 3 horses and 1 wine barrel. As you saw, all the serfs, there's 10 of them here, and we can just quickly verify that there, it's 10. They all delivered a wine barrel to the market. Even though we wanted 3 to 1, 3 didn't just deliver, but all 10 delivered, and it's something I couldn't help. I couldn't stop them all from delivering the default amount with the script, but to make up for it, as you saw, I have some leftovers being delivered to the marketplace. As soon as the trade is done, the leftovers is delivered. But the problem is, if I want to just go a third time, now I have 3. If I wanted to trade wine barrels for gold, I know it's 3 to 1, but what are they going to do? They're going, this is R6720, they're going to the storehouse, and they're getting from there instead of getting the ones that are in the market already. But in the beta, R15122 at least, in this storehouse for this map I have some leather armor stored, so let me just trade them for 3 wine barrels to make this quick because it's 1 to 1, and I'm going to block the storehouse. Now I have 3 in here. I want to now trade that for gold. It automatically does the trade. They don't go and get more and bring it in the market. And just to briefly do this in the beta too, just change that value to 3. I'll restart this and do 3 trades of this. Quickly do them. 1 left over. When it traded them, it reused the wine barrels that were in there, so it used a leftover. So it's not a bad thing that the leftovers are brought to the market in the beta, but in R6720, it can be a good thing sometimes if like you're trading food items and your in is over here, okay? And your market is here, just like it is here. So that way, whatever food items that would need to be brought to the end anyway are closer to the end, which is kind of like, when will this ever happen? You know, it's very rare that something like that would happen. So it's just sitting there. It's going to be used, if this was a real game, this would be used for the end or for feeding troops, but it wouldn't be used for further trading. So that brings me to the option down here, where if we scroll down just a little bit, we have, and I was player 1 in this map, but basically it is put the leftovers in the, and you just change this from market to storehouse if you want the leftovers to go back in the starting storehouse. And I'm saying starting storehouse, I know that most people do not build a storehouse. They just keep the original, and some even destroy the original after the resources in it are gone. But I'm just saying starting storehouse for those who do build more than one storehouse, and also for those that usually destroy the storehouse or may lose the storehouse, that if you want the goods to be stored in the storehouse instead of the market for traffic issues, which this will cause, then all you have to do is whatever player number you are. So like if this is 30 players, like in the latest remake versions there was up to 30 players. Everybody who wants to play with this script in a multiplayer map or whatever, they can specify if they want the leftovers to be stored in a storehouse or a market. So let me just show that. I saved the script already. Let me go back to it, and I'm going to just do this trade again. And when I'm doing that, I'm just going to block the storehouse, and we're going to pay attention. I might have went too fast. I can trade it again just to show you. Okay. Now we can see 981, 982, right? It went up 1. So the leftovers is delivered to the storehouse because for player 1, which I am in this test map in the map editor, I just changed it to storehouse here. And this is towards the very end of the script. So it's very easy to find. And even in the other variation, it is also towards the end. So that's very easy to change, and in R6720 you will not have this many players, but I just left it as is, and so there you go. Now before I show more examples, I'm going to show you how to install this script inside of a map. Alright, let's say that I want to go get a multiplayer map and put in the map editor. How about Eruption? I'm just copying it with Control-C, go in the maps folder, and then click somewhere and say Control-V. This is Windows 10 by the way. come in here. There's no .script file, so what I'm going to do is all of the files in here, they're named eruption. Obviously, I need to just right click somewhere and say new and paste the name, and I'm going to change this to .script. Press enter so that it says yes. And for those who have Windows and can do everything I did except for do that one change at the end to change it to .script, you can go to view and say options and change folder options, and then you come here and view, and you scroll down. This is probably checked for you. Like if I check it now and I say apply, now all that's gone and you see script file there, but now I can't change it to a different file type because it's all gone. The .map is somehow there, but the rest of it's not there. I'm just going to do the reverse and uncheck this, and when I do, then now all that will appear, and then you can, when you rename a file, you can change the extension to, which in other words is renaming it. It's the thing that comes after the dot. Alright, this is scenario 1 where the script did not exist before. I can right click in here and say edit with Notepad++. This is the script editor I'm using. If you're using Notepad, open with, or just maybe open based on my current settings, and then you're going to see something like this. So this is not really a good editor to use for two main reasons that I can think of. Number one is if you for some reason lose electricity and you're working on a script and you didn't save it, you're going to lose all your work. And number two, you can't undo. Maybe you can undo one action, but that's it. But with Notepad++, which you can get from going to notepad++.org, and any version will do, and it'll be much better for you than if you were to use something like this. So anyway, I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to edit with Notepad++, and it's blank. There's nothing in it. We just made it. So you're going to be getting these script files. You're just going to Control A and Control C. In other words, copy it all and then come in here and paste it and then save it. And then once you do, that's really it. If you start and there's no script file in there in the map, that's all you really have to do. With that out of the way, let me now show you a situation where there is already a script in the file. I really don't have anything offhand. So like, let's say that this script file existed. We came to this eruption folder and it already had a script file in here. We edited it with Notepad++. We open it up and we see this. What do we do with the code that we have? Well, we do the same thing. We're going to Control A, Control C to copy it to the clipboard, and then we're going to come into the script, and what we're going to do is even if like it was like this, you're going to make some spaces at the very beginning and paste this at the very beginning of the file so that what was there, of course, is going to be beneath it. Now the catch is, in this script here that we pasted in here, it has on market trade and it also has on mission start. So what you're going to have to do is, you can do it either way. You either cut all the code that's in the on mission start from the script that I give you and you put it in here. It doesn't matter where you put it in here, just somewhere, either before or after or between, it doesn't matter, just somewhere in here so that it's there. And then you're going to delete this. And then for here, you're going to do the same thing. And in most maps, there's not going to be an on-market trade. Most maps that have a script, probably on mission start will be there. So you definitely will have to do it for that for most of the cases where the maps do have a script already. But for on-market trade, it'll be very rare that it'll be there. But anyway, don't forget to delete that too. That's how you successfully merge these two scripts in R6720. I'll show you how to do it for the beta versions or the latest remake versions, that it's not this much trouble. So I'm going to save this, open the map in the map editor. So I'm going to add a market to one of the players. Okay, this is player 2, play location 2. Oh yeah, and this is, I'm glad this happened, because if the variables here are a different name than what you have, you're going to have to rename them to whatever this is. This. So there you go. That will fix that problem. No more trumpets. We're good. I'm just going to trade some wine barrels for horses. Okay, so we have the same result we had before, so the script is successfully in. While I'm at it, show you another trade example. I'm going to come up here and I need to, well, I can like stretch this some. And that's why I broke this up into two tables, because it gets messed up like this when you zoom in too much, right? So I kind of broke it up into two tables because it was much wider. You know, it was all of these over that I had to zoom out like this much to be able to see everything. You can hardly read it. It's in the same order actually as this. I just have all three. I have the lance and the bow in addition to just the axe that's just in here, right? It's just the axe and then the lance and the bow are missing because I had them down here, right? This is the abbreviated market sheet I showed earlier, but it only goes through horses. So that's the end of the corn, and then the second one is the gold. It's basically the raw materials, and then the iron weapons. Let's just say that I want to trade skins for iron ore. Iron ore is down here, find skins, and then iron ore is here. The default value is 1 to 2. Where it's 1 skin and you get 2 iron ore out of it, right? I can write this as 1 divided by 2. That will give me the default value. So let me change it to something different. Let's say I want to get 4, or let's say 5 out of it. Let me go back into eruption because this is eruption now. While I'm at it, remember the leftovers was delivered to the market. But if I come down here, you can see that I had it set for storehouse for player 1 and it still went to the market. So that shows that this works, right? So if I come here and say storehouse for player number 2, which was the blue player that we were looking at in the map eruption, I'm going to trade skins, which I don't have any. I forgot to put some in here. I have to go back to the map editor, put 1,000 skins in here. How about that? Location 2, I'm going to trade skins for iron ore and just 1. Block the storehouse. Right now we have 999 skins. Okay, so we still have 999 because there was no leftovers. 1 skin yielded 5 iron ore, just as we wanted it to. Okay, great. In the script, I still have 3 wine barrels will yield 1 horse. I'm just going to briefly check that it works. That it's going to deliver a wine barrel to the storehouse because I've now changed it, and it did, right? Because I started with 50, but then it costed 10, but then it delivered 1 back, and I have 3 horses in here. So it works, right? It works both ways, whether the trade is going to output more than 1 or it's going to cost more than 1, it's going to work. Now let me try something else. There's different ways, and I say in the instructions up here that instead of a divided by sign, you can enter the values in any of these ways for 1/2. So I'm just going to test that now real quick. Try to make this as user friendly as I could, but I can say 1-5, so that means 1 to 5. I save the script and say skin to iron ore and click that and wait and block that too. See, still 5. I'm going to change this to a semicolon, which doesn't make any sense. You would usually use a colon for ratios, right? But I have semicolon as one of the acceptable symbols that you can substitute. So I'm going to restart, come here and do it again. Okay, so that was 5. Let's say that I want to input this as a decimal. I can put in 0,2. I'm going to block the storehouse this time. 5 again, and just, I guess I'll just show it with the period, and it does. Now let's say that I wanted to make the price free. What value do you think I put? Well, I would put 0, right? I would have to put 0. I can't leave it blank, because if I leave it blank, or like if I do this, like if I have all spaces, which you can do, you can get rid of these lines. I can remove all these underscores and just replace them with spaces if I want. It doesn't make any difference. I put 0 here and I save it, and given that I have for player 2, the leftovers are going to go to the storehouse, what do you think is going to happen? We got the 1 skin back. The skin that we traded was returned to the storehouse. And we have 2 iron ore in the marketplace. Briefly, I can make it so that the market will receive the leftovers instead for player 2. Whenever I make a change to the script, I have to exit out of the game and restart it. And when I made a change in the script, it might have been fast, but I did save it with Control S. See, there it is. It's in the market instead. So we've seen an example of when the trade can be free. We have to put 0 here. I'm just going to restore this back to the default just by copying that line and then pasting it there. So this can get annoying, and that's what I want to get to next before I show you how to install it on the beta versions or the latest remake versions more recent than R6720. This is when I put option 1 into eruption. Now I'm going to put option 2 of R6720 script into eruption in R6720. This is the 1900 line script. I'm just going to replace all the code in here with that code. You're already seeing how you will merge the script in with the script that exists already. It's the same exact process for this, and this only has to be done in R6720. That's why I'm mentioning it right now, and I won't mention it again when I get into the versions that are more recent than R6720. Okay, the biggest problem that we have with this table, even though it looks good and it's condensed and it looks like this for the most part, the resources are in the same order and everything, we have to keep realigning it, and we might accidentally delete a cell if we're not careful. When we do something like this, we want to put a value here and things like that. So for those who like this is option 1 and it's there for you. Now for option 2, it's going to be basically this. Let's say that I start out and I want to trade 3 wine barrels for 1 horse, just like I did before. What I have to do is I need to search for whatever the name of the corresponding resource is here. So it's not wine barrels, I just have wine here. So you're going to search for wine, and case doesn't matter, but since I have case sensitive checked here in Notepad++, I'm going to have to type in, unless I uncheck that, I'm going to have to type it in all caps. So the name of the resource that you're trading, not the one you're obtaining from the trade, colon, and then a space. You literally search for that exact thing. I don't have a colon space anywhere else except for these search terms in this script. That's why this works. I actually say this in the example here. I mentioned this very example where I'm searching for wine. So it comes up here instead of jumping to where it normally goes in the table, but this is the only exception. So I click it again. So you can delete those comments at the top here. You can delete those once you get the hang of this script, so this doesn't come up if you want to search for wine. You don't have to click this twice to get to it, but it's here. So all you have to do is scroll down until you find horses, and then from there, I already had this change from 10 to 1 to 3 to 1. It was default was 10 to 1, but as you can see, I should have, and I'm going to fix it before I give it to y'all, put it back to 10 to 1. But let me just make it 7 to 1. How about that? Change it up some. Okay. So wine barrels, 2 horses. I'm going to block the storehouse and fast forward. We have 3 left over because the trade was 7 to 1, and the leftovers are delivered to the market this time because in this script, if I just say Control N to go to the bottom and go up, everything is market here in this script. I didn't change anything. I didn't change it to storehouse. And when you type in market or storehouse, it doesn't matter the case. This language is case insensitive. So I can type in storehouse or storehouse or whatever. But in short, that's all you have to do for this script is you just search for, I have to go to the top so you can see one of these as the resource that you're trading, followed by a colon, followed by 1 space. And then when you do, then it'll bring you to the relevant column of the table, so to speak, and you just scroll down just a little bit until you find the resource that you want to trade for. And I left these as a fraction, like for wine, the default for horses is 10 to 1. That's how it is in the game, right? 10 to 1. So I encourage you to keep that fraction there as is. Even if you want to go 1 to 5, just do that. Don't do 0.2. You can, it won't hurt anything, but all you have to look at is just this and then the number beneath it. You don't have to look at anything else. But by chance you want to restore to the default, you just simply can copy this and then paste it there. So don't erase these or change these. These are the comments here. They're green on my screen, but they might be just black and white like everything else if you edit this in Notepad or WordPad. So in a way, that's another advantage to option 1 is that if you want to make it the default, you just erase everything and it will consider the default. Not a big deal. Another workaround though is if you want it to be the default, you can just say like, and you don't remember what the default is, you can just say like 99. Just something that's greater than the largest trade in the table here, which would be the amount of stones it takes to purchase 1 horse. Yeah, 32 is probably, so any number greater than 32 would mean the default, greater than the default. That's the key thing. As long as the number is greater than the default, then that means that the price is more expensive, and this script doesn't handle if the price is more expensive, only if it is cheaper. And I say that here, that it's going to be cheaper at the very top, only cheaper, not more expensive. To show how to install it for the latest remake versions, those versions later than R6720 like R15122, I can think of no better map to use as an example than the latest version of Border of Life. And you can get the latest version by going to Knight's Tavern, which I've been there before. It came up on my internet suggestions, so it brought me here. I'm going to download it. Okay. Put it in the maps folder. And we're going to open up the script. Okay, so there's two scripts in here. If I sort this by type, this script by Strangelove does not have the same name as the rest of the files in here. So it'll be sort of like this script that I'm going to give you now. It's going to be a script that is named something different. In other words, though, this is definitely not the one we want to open. We just leave that one alone. We go and open up the map script. This has on mission start, but we're not going to have to worry about that. Even if it has its own on mission start, all we have to do is just go to the very beginning of the file and just do like what's done here. Write an include statement like that. So it doesn't matter if we put the include statement that we're going to add before or after, because they're include statements. Specifically, the script that we're going to add, which will be here in this include statement, is independent of this one. So the order doesn't matter. But if it was, of course, if there was code in here that called code that was in here, then this one would have to be first, and then this one would have to be here. In other words, I didn't come into Strangelove's script, open it up, and find some random function or procedure that he has in here, like this, which is not a default in the scripting language, like these in blue, for example. I didn't do that. I didn't even come in here and look at this script at any point in time in order to write mine. So it's not a possibility for these two to be dependent on each other either way. So order does not matter. All I'm going to do is replace this part with the name of the map script file that we're going to add in. If I go to the top of either option 1 or option 2, for versions more recent than R6720, if I just scroll down right here, this is the name of the script. And this whole line here is actually not going to hurt anything, and that's why I'm going to ultimately just say this. You only want to include it just one time, basically, and this will ensure that. So it's a little bit longer than just an include, and I'm seeing this constantly abbreviated as I. There's nothing wrong with it, but I just like to have the full name include, and luckily that is supported in this scripting language. So anyway, that's it. All you have to do is just put this line in, and I save it, and well, you have to, of course, put a copy of this script in the Border of Life folder. I just made a copy of it for the desktop. All you do is just drag it in, and that's it. And I didn't say it earlier, but if the number of players changes in the future, you just simply add more. You know, if there's 35 players, you just add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more lines, and then just do this. It doesn't matter how many you add in here. Furthermore, for an 8-player map, if it's just 8 players on the map, there's no AI or anything, or it's total with the AI, basically every player that's enabled on a map is just 8. You can delete all of that and just have 8 to make things simple and easier to look at, and you can even space them out if you want, whatever you want to do. It's just if there's 8 players on a map and you remove 1 so it's 7, then that will be a problem. But since 30 is more than 8, it will not be a problem. I'm going to test this in Border of Life that I just added it to, and it's hard to see because all the players are the same color, but if I just would temporarily color this player something else, you can see that this is player 16. Player 16 has a marketplace, and when I start it, I'm going to press F11 under game additional. So for you, if you just got this game, you're going to have to, I'm not saying you should do this, but this is just for testing AI players, which is necessary when you develop maps or scripts for maps at least. But this is player 16 over here, and I have access to the market now. I'm going to make a trade. Well, I have to set it first, right? I'm going to edit the script because I don't think I have any non-default values in here. And this is option 1, but I just copied option 2's code, and I'm going to paste it in here so that I can do one more example with that. How about I do, if I scroll down a little bit, I know what the names are that I have to search for. Gold to corn. So gold, and then search. Corn is here. Right now it's 1 to 1. How about 1 gold? I have to make it less expensive, so it has to be a fraction. The ratio has to be less than 1 because this is 1. So for every 1 gold I put in, let's say I get 9 corn out of it. Since I made a change to the map, I'm going to have to restart it. Going back to player 16, and this player has plenty of gold, and he's not going to store the corn. The storehouses are blocked, and say gold to corn. and just put in 1 and see what happens. Yeah, he might be going to the schoolhouse. I'm gonna fast forward this. So it feeds these stables. I didn't even really pay attention that there's stables here, but hey, that works, doesn't it? Yeah, I was thinking that maybe for a map like this that no one has actually beat it except for me, without modifying the locations to make them easier, that a map like this could use a little tweak in the market prices at least and keep everything else the same. So that's why I use this as an example. Alright, so in conclusion, now we have a way to have cheaper market prices or free market prices, whatever we want. So thank you for watching and have a nice day.